Okay, folks, here we go. As one Crookshank here, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current five-time published author and educator, here for the first ever weekly live stream called Stay Hired. Stay Hired weekly live streams. We're here every single Sunday, 10:30 to roughly we'll go till about 11:05 ish a.m. depending on the questions and depending how much we actually get into. But really, the goal for this is to give you myself and Miss Kimberly Blue, the founder of it's Ardent Solutions, correct? HR company. Actually, let me let you introduce yourself first before I give an intro what this is all about. Good.
No problem. Good morning. So I'm Kimberly with Ardent HR Solutions. Looking forward to your questions and thank you, Son, for having me on.
Yes. So what we did, and I'll kind of give you the quick version of how this whole thing came about, is I actually interviewed Kimberly for my podcast. And as you regular listeners know, there's been an absolute great people. There's a ton of great people on the show that have just dropped gem after gem after gem. And what I've actually started doing is making sure I have a follow-up system with everyone that's been on the show. And I always reach out. I'm always email. I'm always making sure we're staying in contact. And luckily, myself and Kimberly have a very synergistic business when it comes to the people we work with, when it comes to what we're trying to put out to the community, not just the community, but what we're trying to put out into the world in regards to just getting people the tools, giving people the option, giving people something in which they can hang on to and then take to their place of business, take to their place of work or their job or wherever it is and apply to their business is going to keep them hired. So I reached out to her and we were able to connect and we just said, hey, let's jump on some weekly live streams and just give some advice. So we won't keep you guys here for too long, but we will, make sure we get your questions answered, even if you're not watching this live. The questions that we've been receiving from people as we're building up for this. This has been about 3 weeks since we've been planning this. So there's been quite a few questions we've gotten from colleagues and coworkers about what someone would want to know about, when it comes to staying hired, getting hired, and then staying hired. So all that being said, one of the initial topics that she and I dove into, because when you're talking about staying hired, you're talking about a lot of different avenues, a lot of different variables, and a lot of ground that we have to cover, which is why we make this weekly. But the first thing that you had actually brought to me was recognizing the importance of adaptability. Now, speaking from myself personally, a name like Aswan Crookshank, as you guys are reading, you're going to read that on a job application. You're going to read that on a resume. Any sane person is going to say, hell no, I'm not hiring that dude, right? So when she said adaptability, for me, I'm like, look, I don't know if I should be hosting this or if I should just be listening. Right. If I should more so be listening so I could take some notes, because I don't adapt with any job employer and all that. And that has kind of been my working problem for me. So I'll let you kind of, I'll give you the microphone before I talk too much. I'll let you explain a little bit about the art of adaptability, because you had actually sent me a whole list of things that we can talk about when it comes to the adaptability piece. And we'll kind of go from there. And then we'll leave about, I'll say 10 minutes going into 11 for any questions that want to be addressed.
Well, great. Well, thank you. It's a nice intro there. So when you think about adaptability, it could mean so many different things. I think one big thing that comes to mind is the world of work is changing all the time. And how do you keep up with it? How do you keep your skills up? Because if you stay stagnant and say, "Oh, that's just the way it is," then you're never going to grow. And so stay up to date on the trends, what's going on. Think AI, for example.
Yes.
A lot of people are on the AI bus, and then there's a whole set of people that are like, nope, it's going to take my job. It's not going to take your job. Embrace it, learn it. There's LinkedIn courses out there that are free, all kinds of courses. That's something about adaptability, being able to pivot quickly and learn what it's about. Because if you can't grow your skills, then you're not going to be able to grow with your employer, because, life is moving fast. Life is lifing all the time. And just make sure you're staying up to date on any skills or any new technology that's coming out.
Now, you brought up a great example, because myself as a writer, thought leader, not kind of a thought leader, definitely a thought leader, but a person who writes a lot of material. I myself was against AI for a while. I myself was against ChatGPT and doing all that because I felt like it was going to be taking over the things that I'm really capable of doing. Can you dive a little deeper into it when you said that the folks who come to you and feel like AI is going to take their job, can you give us a little bit more of their concerns and what exactly you tell them when they come to you with this? But actually, before, I don't know if we actually got to give you a chance to do this because it's the first one. Why don't you kind of dive a little bit more into your HR business a little bit more, so that way
Okay.
people know how to reach out to you, and then we'll go into the details of how we can when it comes to that specific problem.
Sure.
Mhm.
So you can visit ardentHRsolutions.com. My phone number is there on the website as well. Been in HR for over 15 years, started out in operations. And so having that operational mindset along with the HR experience has really helped my leadership and being able to answer questions and kind of speak as a business. And so that's my background, and I love to help people. I want people to make it. I want people to thrive in the workplace, and very passionate about helping veterans. I think one of the biggest, and it goes right into the adaptability too, is that
Hmm.
when an employer sees veterans and they see their resume, they're like, I don't know what any of this means. And
Yes.
so, fixing their resume or getting their resume into civilian speak. So
Hmm.
that way, the employer actually knows what their experience is and what they did in the military.
Hmm.
So that's a little bit about me. To
Yes.
answer the
And we,
question,
by the way, though, we will get into more specific answers about former veterans and former military as well. That's actually a huge, huge topic over here in the Move Swiftly world. Knowing that I have a football background and sports background, there's just a lot of synergy in that world as well. So anyway, I'll let you
mhm. Okay, perfect. So as far as AI, one example could be, copywriting is big. Now, generally, if you're a writer, you don't want to rely so heavily on AI because you want your personality to come through. But think about it
Yes.
this way: it's a learning behavior, so it learns who you are. The best thing you could do is when you first start using AI, is actually tell AI whatever there's so many out there now, so I don't have a specific one that I like better than the other,
Hmm.
but you say, ask me 20 questions to get to know me, whatever topic. When you ask any AI that, it's going to then give questions and get to know your personality, your tone, what you're passionate about. And then when you go back to it and ask a question, you'll be so surprised when it gives you the answer that you would actually say. So if you just go in there and type it one question, you'll have to correct it 20 times because it's not coming out as authentic in you. So if you when you first start using it, get it to learn you first. And then you can go back 5 years later and you're still going to get that same authentic answer that sounds like something you would do. I would say that would be the biggest tip. But there's a lot of, whether you're a writer or writing websites or NHR or, have to write an article for any reason. But there's so many things you can do. You could do it from making menus for the week for your kids. You can write in there, um, give me a weekly menu with a shopping list. Make sure there's no dairy or, whatever your restrictions are. And that's what it'll spit out. So it can really save time
Yes.
for your everyday life as well.
Yes, and I was paying attention to what you said, but I was as you were talking, it made me pull up a message that I got from another former guest. Shout out to Bridget Hom. She's the founder of Stuck on Ready, another thought leader, and she was on the show as well. But I'm a part of her Facebook group, and she actually just posted this about a week ago, just telling everyone to try this. She said, "I told ChatGPT, tell me something about myself that I may not know. Here's what it said." And then it went on to talking about a little bit about what she's all about. And then after it spit out an answer, she said, and then add anything else. And then it gave out more stuff and more stuff and more stuff. And then it asks about the strengths and a little bit about how she is. And then the prompt, and then she ends this, it's like a whole paragraph message, but she ends it by saying, try this prompt and let me know how it goes. And I want to make sure I emphasize that as well, is because it's all about the actual prompt. It's all about actually creating
Yeah,
a prompt. And these are things that are working within a person. So again,
yeah,
this is I'm speaking from experience. Now I'm not talking at you guys. I'm talking to you guys because I have learned as a creator, look, you got to embrace this change. You got to embrace this as an author, as a person that does a lot of work in that world. Just prompt it certain things, have it give you options, and then allow that to be the next phase. So the question I actually have for you now is, when it comes to the, I guess, the people that you would normally, that you're typically trying to work with, whether it is the veterans, whether it is the business owners, whether it is the kind of the, I don't know, we call them like the corporate execs that are always about, their bottom line is shareholder value, and the bottom line is making
Yes.
sure that the money is coming in, which is the bottom line to every single business owner.
Right.
What are you advising them, or what kinds of advice and tips are you advising them in regards to connecting with people? Because like you said, if you're not doing your research on this stuff, you can honestly lose an employee and just say, fuck it, look, I'm gonna replace this employee with Chat GPT. And I've actually seen that happen. I've seen people who are in the marketing world get fired, get canned, because the person now can hire a grant writer from some consulting firm that they've never met. So when it comes to connecting with people and allowing people to stay employed, what are some of the pieces of advice that you're giving to employers and the folks that are really trying to adapt to this?
The leaders, it's a great question. The leaders that I work with, so the business owners or the
Mhm.
VPs, they're like, I just don't understand it. It's like, well, have you asked your people?
Yeah.
Well,
When they
what would
say
you
they
know
don't
about it?
understand it, what's the it that they're referring to? Are they just
Oh,
are
the
they saying
AI,
just
the
AI in
AI.
general?
Yeah,
So
that's what
when they
they're.
say
A
that,
lot of people say.
and I
Yeah,
have to ask this too, because what I've learned is there's a lot of stubborn business owners out there as well. Is when they say they don't understand it, do you get the sense that they're are trying to understand it, or do you get the sense of, until it affects my bottom line, then I'll try to figure it out, and I'm gonna try to adapt, which is probably going to be too late. Can you guys speak on that a little bit too? Because I want to call business owners out as well, as to stop waiting so long to embrace a change. And that's actually one of the topics we have. I'm looking at it here. But
yes,
stop waiting so long to embrace change, and start to embrace the change now, so you're not behind the eight ball when everything kind of takes off. I know
that's
that's a loaded question, but we're having open discussion
that's
here.
right. Oh, it's so true though. So I see
Yeah,
both ways. So I see
yeah.
some are very open and they just don't know where to go, and other ones are
Hmm.
like, oh, that's just a new fad. It's going to go away. I don't need that.
Hmm.
And I said, well, talk to your people. Stop reading the articles online written by people that you don't know.
Hmm.
Talk to your people and see what they're seeing, because that's the reason why we hire people,
Hmm.
because they're smarter than us. They're
Yeah.
more open to change and they want to learn. And if you just have a round table and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, I'm looking at, whether it's, open AI or chat, GPT, say,
Hmm.
what do you think about this? Using it for our sales guides or our ordering guide. Tell me a little bit about it and have these open, authentic discussions without any bias. Keep your mind open
Hmm.
and hear from your team and take notes, because they know what to do and they have great ideas. When you bring a good team together, they're going to give you those answers that you're looking for.
Now, when you say talk to your people, do you mean talk to a customer? Because I can see some business owners who don't have a team, like you just said, they don't have a strong team, and they're trying to figure it out. That's actually a lot of people that tune into my work as well, is those business owners that just don't have it. They have their own idea, but if they were to leave their business, then they don't have anything. So all they have is their customers, all they have is their clients. How do
Right.
you speak to those folks?
So they can speak to their clients, or they could call somebody like me,
There we go. Yeah,
okay.
I set you up nice.
They call me
You can
and
call
I could
Kimberly,
be their
folks.
person. And I could walk it through them, and step by step, because it's a lot easier than what you think it is. So there's resources for those single business owners, or
Mhm.
someone with two or three people in their team, because the more answers and the more conversations you have, right?
Right.
We could sit down, go through it. What are your concerns when it comes to hiring, or when it comes to finding clients? Even you're struggling to find clients. This is so important to be able to think of things differently, because if you're doing the same thing and you're not getting results,
Hmm.
definition of insanity, right? So
It is the definition of insanity.
seek out an expert that can help you for sure.
All right, so we have about 5 more minutes left before we get to questions, and I do want to make sure we get this because you have it written down perfectly as I'm reading through the layout that we have. And by the way, folks, this isn't concrete and stone. This is the first time we're doing this, so as you guys continue to come in and ask your questions, and we will actually practice what we preach and make sure we're doing things in order to serve the people that are tuning in regularly and regularly giving questions for us to answer. But we have a weekly challenge here, and you have 5 challenges written down, and I want you to kind of address all 5 of them. First, it's try something new. Second is step out of your comfort zone. 3 is embrace feedback. 4 is to create backup plans, and 5 is to learn to let go. All right. So I will allow you to kind of evaluate and talk a little bit more about these 5 challenges, and then we'll get to some of the questions that you and I both got throughout the couple of weeks that we put this on.
All right. Thank you.
And
So
if you need me to just let me know.
Okay. So when you think about change is hard for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one thing that we cannot get away from. So embrace it. Embrace it. Say, okay, this is what it's going to be. And then move on, and learn. By doing that, you're going to learn something new. Purposely, every week, put it on your calendar to learn something new. This is not optional, whether it's Wednesday at noon or Friday at 1 p.m., not 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
It could be 1 a.m. You're going to put it on your calendar and you're going to be intentional about it. Plan it out, because then every week you're developing a new skill.
Yes, and just to get it, and before you get to the next one, so here's how I'll do. I'll have you explain it, then I'll give a personal example that I've done in my own life. So when I was a boxing trainer, at a gym named 9 Round Kickboxing and Fitness. I was never the guy. So I was always like the motivational trainer, and then the colleague I had, he was the one that was able to actually teach the skill of boxing, like jab, cross, uppercut, jab, cross, hook, all that, like teach combinations. And one of the things I actually did is I tried to make sure I knew how to teach other people how to do their own combos, So now I was able to create more value in the workplace. And then by the time he kind of fizzled out, I was able to learn it on my own and actually charge people to do boxing lessons, whether it's kids, whether it's women, doesn't matter who it is. I'm still have that skill. So that's an example of me doing it. And I'm saying that for you guys to figure out how you're able to do it in your own work environment. Now, number 2, step out of your comfort zone. Go, because I have a lot. That's one. If I get too, I have to cut me off on this one because we got to get to the questions.
So stepping out of your comfort zone, I think, is the scariest for people because
Yes,
if
ma'am.
you're used to giving, say, your emails or your Word documents to someone else to do for you, learn to do it. Learn to use Excel. Excel is one of the biggest ones that people just really struggle with because you look at it, you look at the formulas, and you're like, you get frozen, and your brain stops working. So break it out in chunks. So whatever it is that you decide to learn, break it out in chunks and take 15 minutes every day instead of an hour a week. Again, be adaptable. And do something that has nothing to do with your line of work. And the more that you learn, and if you don't know where to start, reach out to either one of us. We can give you some great ideas. So aside from those skills, think soft skills.
Yes.
You don't know how to speak, join a local club for speaking. Or you get scared with it. I get nervous too. Like I look at a swan and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna breathe. And then I'm like, okay, let's go. Because the only way you're gonna get past it is by doing it.
Yes. All right. So I have a lot of stories on this particular subject, and we won't have time to get to them today. But the one that immediately, when you say comfort zone, after COVID, during COVID, I had to leave the fitness industry and get into the education world, the teaching business, and I had to pay my dues. I had to actually work at a kindercare, which was partially education, but more so daycare. And I, as one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, had to change diapers, folks, while working. All right. I had to change a diaper. I was the only man in the entire, I worked for two of these centers, and I was the only man in the entire establishment. And me as a man had to actually change diapers. The colleagues are laughing at me. I have to put gloves on. I don't know what I'm doing. But over time, the women started to respect me. As you can see, I developed the strength to do whatever, like to tell you, you have to do whatever it takes. Pay your dues, whatever you have to do. Get out of your
Yeah.
comfort zone because they will respect you more. So now, if I'm seeing somebody, actually, just the school I'm at now, one of the parents from that center, she might be actually working at the school I'm at now, and she remembered me. She remembered when her son, shout out to her son Troy, when I was helping him out and doing little things. And because I got out of the comfort zone and got paid, crap doing that, by the way, it wasn't any money. It wasn't at all. It was enough to fucking put some
No.
gas in the car. But, again, I had to pay my dues. And the fact that I did that, now there's that thing that you can receive that's more valuable than money, which is the respect of a mother,
Right.
which is the respect of seeing a mother say, man, you helped out so and so when he was here, and then that kid comes and sees you and gets old and sees how you built your business. It's like, hey, it's all worth it. So
It's
again,
all
I have
worth
a
it.
lot to say on that one, but for the sake of
Yeah.
time, we'll get to number 3. Embrace feedback. Another big one in the Move Swiftly world, being a former football player, football coach, you get a lot of that, a lot of rough feedback. But anyway, I'll let you go, and then I'll
Yes.
provide my example.
So I call it too embracing the suck. It's
Yes,
not it's not always going to be, roses and flowers feedback.
absolutely not.
It's going to be that tough conversation, and that's the best kind though.
Yes.
Don't take it personally,
Hmm.
be like a duck, let it roll off you,
Hmm.
but listen to it no matter if you agree with it or not. You don't have to agree.
Yes.
If someone perceives this as something that you need to work on, think about it, ask questions,
Hmm.
and say, hey, what do you think what do you think I could do to get better at this?
Hmm.
And the more questions you ask with different people, one of the best things you could do is send out, to your friends, your family, coworkers, people you worked in the past, send out an email with 2 questions. What do I do well? What can I do better?
Hmm.
You get that feedback, and then you make your action plan, which goes to the learn something every week,
Yes.
because you might have thought you were really good at something, and you
Hmm.
find out that you're perceived as needing help on these things. So do it, embrace the suck, and just do it.
Yeah.
Take it the feedback for what it is, for you always seeking to improve.
Yeah. So this one, because of for the sake of time, I won't bring up a football example because I can probably talk for hours on the football example. I want to talk about more so the example in sales. When I first worked at so there was a period I was 26 years old, no, 25, going on 26, flat broke, lost everything. Car got repossessed, went bankrupt, phone, didn't have enough money to pay my phone, but everything was all lost. Absolutely didn't have one penny. This happened, 10 years ago now. And I went into an LA Fitness to get a sales job, and the manager of this LA Fitness was asking me, he said, how would you get someone to walk into a gym? Basically asking how I would sell gym memberships. And I
Mm.
started running off all my football connections, my sports connections, and all that. He goes, stop. You're talking about getting athletes in the gym. I'm talking about getting a new family. I'm talking about getting a people. I'm talking about going to someone and saying, who's in a new community, going to some grocery store person who's overweight and that feels very uncomfortable and unconfident. How do you get that person in the gym? And I initially didn't want to hear it, but as I was going out selling memberships, I realized, hey, he's right. Athletes have access to their own gym. You got to get away from that and go speak to actual people to get into a gym. And that is the power of this one. It's a big one, is embracing feedback. And if
Yes,
you're not adapting that, you will lose, you will fail miserably because you're only staying in your comfort zone. All right. So,
exactly.
let me stop the mic there because I'll talk for hours on that too. Creating a backup plan. Go.
So it's always good. You talked about your loss. It's the
Mhm.
same for me. Been reorged, 3 or 4 times, and you finally get to a point where you're like, Okay, so what do I do next? You know,
Yes.
because being reorg's no fun. Working,
Yeah.
and like you said, you had to prove yourself. You had to
Hmm.
prove yourself all over again. And
Yes.
so what I did was I started Art and HR Solutions. I'm like, okay, this is what is happening, and so how do I stop this from happening? I'm going to
Hmm.
create my own HR company
Yes.
where I can help business owners, I can
Hmm.
help people, and I can do it authentically and myself. So no matter what it is in life, you have a backup plan,
Yes.
because still got to live.
Yeah.
And we still got to pay bills, right?
Right.
And
Uh,
so, learn something new. That's why you want to learn something new, because you'll never know when you're going to
all
need
right.
it.
So for this one, I'll give a quick one for the sake of time, but I will encourage anyone listening to go and pick up the book called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. I read it, and I actually had one of his coaches on the show. Shout out to Brandon, founder of Financial Wisdom Financial. Yeah, Financial Wisdom Financial. I think. Oh, don't quote me on that name. I got to go back and look it up. But pretty much the point of the book, the long and short of the book, is always be putting money aside. Like take some of whatever you're making now, put it in a profit account, pay yourself first, and then never look like you're not allowed to touch that account at all. Just watch it grow and grow and grow. You can go to the bank and you can make as many accounts as you want. Just whatever you're making, put it there and make sure it is growing every 2 weeks. Ever since I read that book, I went to Wells Fargo and I actually have a profit account where I'm not allowed to touch it. And if I do touch it and I get paid again, it has to go up more. So that concept of paying yourself first, it falls right into the back of mind. Again, the name of the book is Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. All right, final one real quick. It's Learn to Let Go. It is very self-explanatory. I'll allow you to go and then we'll get into some questions.
Yep. Whenever you experience loss, it doesn't matter what it is, professional, personal, what can you do about it?
Hmm.
Nothing. Let it go. Because if you
Yeah.
don't let it go, all it does is hurt you.
Yes.
And so you want to live, and you want to live, and you want to be happy and thrive. You
Hmm.
can't do that when you're holding on to crap. You just can't
Yeah.
do it. So
Yes.
just let it go. And if you have to tell it, it takes time. It's not easy.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's easy. I'm
Yes.
just saying it's worth it when you learn it.
Yes. And
So
this
let
one.
it
So
go.
this one I actually will use a football example because I'm recording this on we're doing this on a Sunday and it's late October and a lot of this channel is going to be dominated with a lot of my thoughts on college football. And I went 1 for 3 with all my teams. As a good council is my high school, but we're basically like a college program. We took a big L. We took a hard loss to our rivals this Friday night. My alma mater, Stony Brook, we did win, which was good. But last year we went 0-10. But I'm like a diehard Michigan fan, Kimberly, and we look like shit. Absolutely pathetic. So, and I'll have more to say on that tomorrow in tomorrow's video. But um, what basically the message is, I had to, as football people, you got to learn to let go. The morning got to come and you got to get ready for next week. And this, I think, is applicable to every single avenue, every single part of life, because whatever you're going through in your working life, whatever you're going through in your home life, it's something that you got to move on really quick because the rent is due the next month. Kids need this the next month. Husband, whatever it is, husband, marriage, however it is you are working in your working world. You, from speaking from the man's perspective, you as a husband, you got to show up that next day, regardless of the loss you took in the working world. As a wife, you also got to show up and be a partner for your kids, and you guys can't allow these personal setbacks to kind of ruin the whole thing. So that's a big one, and I probably would talk a lot on that. But we are coming
You have
up
to
on
show up for yourself first.
yeah,
Remember
yeah,
that.
we got
Show
to
up
do
for
it.
yourself first.
But yeah, we are coming up on the 30 minutes. I do want to get to some questions. The
Okay.
first one, the main one, actually, let me pull it. I want to read it. I'm going to read it verbatim because this is a former military guy, and he asked me directly. 102. Okay, he basically said, and just to set the scene for you guys, this is a coworker who actually played football with me, and he and I teach at the school in Palm Beach that I've been referring to, named Center for Creative Education, and his son actually goes to this school. And he asked me, how do business owners recognize, how can we get business owners to recognize the value that a former military person makes in the working world?
That's such a great question, and I've gotten that a lot too. So, number one, and a lot of people, not just veterans, have a hard time showing this, but you have to showcase your skills yourself.
Hmm.
This is your time to brag, right? The number one thing is that you have to seek someone like myself, and there's other companies too, but translate your skills. That's number one. You have to translate your skills to where they understand it, because if they don't understand it, they're going to shut down and they're going to be like, okay, that's not the right person.
Right.
And then once you do that, they can better understand that. I find that a lot of veterans are in roles that they hate because they don't do that. And the last job that they did in the military is the ones that they're doing when they get out.
Mm-hmm.
Find out what you're passionate for. What is it that you want to do? Change your resume to show the value of what you can do in the civilian world. Then talk about it and then be about it. So you're going to show it and then prove it,
Mm-hmm.
because just you might have a job that you don't like, but then still show that leadership quality that I know that all veterans have,
Mm-hmm.
and show them that value. If you're already working, if you're looking for a role, then make sure that you follow those steps too. Then when you're in the interview, then at that point, you also want to showcase that. We have to take some of the military jargon out. You can use the military example, but use civilian terms when you're explaining what you did. I led 1,000 people into a battle. Instead of saying I led 1,000 people into a battle, you could say I led a 1,000 people towards the operational um, project that I did,
Yes.
and this was the outcome of it. So a typical HR or another leader can understand what you're saying, because they
Yes.
don't understand battles. They've never been there.
Right. And well, we're running low on time, but I do want to make sure I kind of close out with that. Unless, did you have any questions? Also, any questions that you wanted to bring up today?
Did I?
Yeah. Did you have
Oh,
any?
no, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. All right. So again, like I said, this is the first time we're doing this, and we'll have more as we move on, and it'll probably be a little more organized as we go. But I think it is very important what you said, to not just, if you're not former military, that question that was asked, it's actually a universal question that everyone needs to be asking themselves as they're going on these job interviews. The reason that this entire, whether it's my company, whether it's her company, whether it's this whole series, everything I do, reason it got started is so business owners are having a more qualified candidate, a person that's coming to them with the confidence that their job, the thing that they're applying for, is something that they're going to treat as if it is their own business. This is why I have every single Wednesday how to be a wintrepreneur, how to take whatever positions actually offered and actually create it and make it something that you feel like it's actually your business. Treat it as if it is your business. And if you go after it that way, then more and more you're going to start to see how valuable you make yourself to whatever position you actually have. So it's all actually a mindset issue. So, with all that, I'm going to close you guys out. Main website let me let you put your website out there one more time before we close, and then we'll move on. Go ahead. You can put your website out there first, and then I'll put mine out.
Okay.
Mm.
So you
Go ahead.
want me to put in the chat, or just say, oh, it's Ardent? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Ardent. Yeah. I don't think they're going to be reading it.
ArdenHRSolutions.com.
Right. So
Visit anytime.
ArdenHRSolutions.com.
Yep.
My main website, MakeYaMove.com. That's MakeYaMove.com. One-stop shop for all your teamwork and your self-development needs. Again, we'll be back here next week. And the website is stayhigher.makeyamove.com. Just submit your questions, and we'll be read live here, and they'll be answered. So all that being said, teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, man, so you can set out.